So in this first assignment, we'll be talking about divine proportions and how we're going to make a golden ratio and a root 5. And then after that, we'll be applying that to some pictures of nature that we find. So to get started, create a new document. And so for the assignments, the way that you should title those is last name, first initial, and then you can do assignment number and description. So we'll do call assignment 1 and then divine proportions. I'm going to do it letter, profile, everything looks good. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a golden ratio. And in order to do that, go ahead and grab your rectangle tool and you're going to make a perfect square. So do that by holding Shift and Alt at the same time and dragging out. Sometimes you might have this problem where it looks like the shapes are empty, but really they're filled with this white color. So make sure that there is no fill color and you just have a black stroke. Okay, so I've got this rectangle. You can make it any size. And in order to make a divine proportion, we're going to start with drawing a line from the center of this square. And you can see these green marks that show up. These are kind of the snap guides that show up. And so this helps you find the middle intersection here, the midpoint of the shape, and any other shape. Also, it will snap to these little anchor points. So I'm going to draw a line from this bottom middle to the top right corner. And then the next thing we're going to want to do is draw a line that's the same shape. It's almost as if we're rotating this down to where it's flat. So in order to do that, I'm just going to, instead of click and drag, I'm just going to click in the same place where I started making my first line. So clicking there, I can choose the angle. I want it to be completely flat, going this way. And we can see here that the length is filled in with the last length that you drew. So this line was 2.55 inches. And so just by clicking and choosing this flat angle, having the line go this way, it's going to draw a line of the same length at this angle. So there we go. So now that's flat. I can delete this. And with the shape tool, I can create another square here by clicking on this corner, dragging down until I come to this anchor point on the end of this line that we drew. And I can click that line and delete it, and there you have the golden ratio. And so now I've got this, and I want it to be one shape instead of two. You can see you can still manipulate each individual one. So I'm going to highlight both of them and click Group. So grouping connects two shapes. I can double click on that group and be able to manipulate each one individually, and you can see here that we're inside a group. And when I'm done, I can double click out of that. You can also, by creating multiple shapes, say I've got these two lines, and instead of grouping them, I just want them to be one shape. I can highlight them both, and just under group is join. So join doesn't make a group, but it actually just fuses those together, and now I have one line. So I've got this, I'll move that up. So that is the golden ratio. The next thing we're going to make is a root 5. So root 5 starts out the same way, just make a square. And instead of drawing a line from the middle, we're going to be drawing a line from the bottom left corner to the top right corner. And then we'll be doing the same thing we did before. I'll click right there, make a flat line the same length as this one, and then draw a rectangle there. And so I'll do the same thing again. So this is a root 2, a perfect square is just a root 1. And this time I'll go to the corner of the root 2 and follow the same process until I get to a root 5. Drag to the corner of the root 3, go back to the beginning point, click, draw a flat line. There's the root 4. Go to the corner of the root 4, make a new line. So there I have the root 5. And I want to get rid of all of these kind of construction lines that we used to make it. Oops, I accidentally deleted that. So I'm going to select all these boxes up here, drag these up so I can get down to these lines that we drew, delete those, and then I'm going to select all of these and group them. So now we've got a root 5 and a golden ratio. So for the assignment, what you need to do is find a picture of something in nature and apply the golden ratio and root 5 to that to kind of explore how nature is laid out, and you'll find some really amazing things. But before we do that, we're going to go back to the golden ratio and we're going to add some extra pieces to it. So you'll see in your book and in the example book this kind of swirling seashell kind of thing that goes on. The interesting thing about the golden ratio is that it fits into itself perfectly. So I'm going to copy this by doing, for Mac, Command C and then Control C for Windows, Control C and then Control V will copy and paste just like most programs, but then Control C and Control F will paste something in the exact same place from where you copied it. So I'll take this, and I'm going to match this up with the smaller side of the golden ratio, and holding Shift I'll scale that down. We can see that it fits perfectly within itself. And I can do that again. Fit into itself again. And so in order to get that kind of swirling that we saw before, what you need to do is go grab your ellipse tool, and you're going to make a circle from this point here. Holding Shift and Alt, and you'll drag up until it intersects with these two corners. So the next tool we're going to learn about is the scissors tool. So I only want this arc right here inside of this square. And so by hitting C, I can click on these anchor points and trim those things and then delete the part that I don't want. So I'm going to take this golden ratio, and then fit this inside of itself. And you can do the same thing. So actually, Actually, it'll be easier if you copy and paste the whole thing. So I'm going to take it with the arc. To create that copy, I just dragged it over here while holding Alt. And once you press Alt, you can see this extra arrow pop up, and you can drag and make copies that way. Just another way to show that there's multiple ways of doing things, there's multiple ways of making copies, just whatever is fastest for you. So I can take this, I can rotate it, fit it inside of itself, and you can see it's starting to make this kind of spiral shape. So I can take this one, fit it inside of itself again, and it'll continue to just spiral in forever and ever. So now I'm going to grab an image. Let's see. RAM, if that's a thing. Maybe just a RAM. I'm going to look for profile. See if it gives me straight on shots, because if the shot is in perspective of the animal, the golden ratios won't match up. So you want a shot that's as completely sideways or straight on as possible. Maybe if I type in nope. Okay, so this one looks pretty good. It's nice and from the side. So what I'm going to do, you can either copy this and save it however you want. You should be able to just drag it straight from the Google search. Hover over Illustrator and just drop it straight in the document there. So this picture I want to be on a different layer. I'm going to go down here, create a new layer, drag this picture over to that, and by clicking to the right of the eye, I can lock this layer so that it won't let me select it or manipulate it at all, which is nice when you're trying to work with stuff that's overlaid on top of the image. So I've got this image here, and you can see already that with this golden ratio, some interesting things are happening. You can see the curve of the ram's horn matches up surprisingly well with the golden ratio. I want to make this more visible, so I'm going to make the stroke color red. And you can see that the eye corresponds almost perfectly with the curve of these horns. And so the assignment is to find some pictures, 2 or 3 pictures from nature, and kind of dissect them with these golden ratios and root 5 proportions. Just like I've lined things up here, go ahead and line things up. You can create multiple golden ratios or root 5s, and you can kind of move those around to find interesting relationships. Starting to see something here with the curve of the face. And where the mouth splits, you can see that it falls right on that line in the golden ratio, and kind of this curve matches that. You find some really interesting things. So go ahead and find 2 or 3 pictures from nature and kind of dissect them with the golden ratio and the root 5. And then a way that you'll want to lay them out is find something that works for showing the 2 or 3 pictures. If I had just 2 pictures, I might lay them out like this, and then put my name at the bottom. The text tool, you can just click, put my name on it there, and there we go. One more thing you may want to be able to use is zoom, and there's a few different ways you can zoom. Command on the Mac, Command plus and minus allows you to zoom in and out. Control plus and minus on the PC. You can also hit Z and select a certain region to zoom onto. There's multiple ways of zooming in and out and moving the canvas around. Just find whatever works best for you, and good luck on that assignment.